Hey y'all, it's Renegade, and it's time again to spill more reality as we get into the second week of Big Brother 26. Let's not wait any longer and get into things right away. Introduce my co-host as we discuss all of the craziness of second week. First off, he's studied human psychology and reading people with the CIA for over 10 years. It's Doug Dimmadab. Doug, how you feeling? What are your thoughts overall on this second week of Big Brother?
I'm feeling great. I am loving this drama. Like Angela versus pretty much anyone has been great TV. I'm hoping that she gets seen as a gold and gets gone taken the entire way, so we just keep on getting more and more drama and her just beefing randomly with someone.
I mean, honestly, I feel like I could just have every single vidcap for our podcast have Angela on it. So I'm also hoping that that's the case here. Also joining us tonight, y'all. He's not a twit, but instead a great magical goddess. It's QuackrrJack. Jack, Jack, how are you feeling after this second, really just ridiculous week of Big Brother?
I'm feeling amazing. Angela is really giving us the brat summer that we all deserve. She's serving chaos, and it's a lot of the people that you kind of don't want to see at the end who've been feuding, so it's kind of fun in that regard. Or at least for me, the people I don't want to see at the end, I should say.
I
Probably
agree.
most of the people don't want it though.
I mean, as long as they're not on my draft team, I've feud with whoever you want. I'm fine with that.
As long as my whole draft team doesn't go, I'm pretty much fine with it. But someone on my draft team went, and that is okay.
Was she really on your team from the start? I don't know. I don't know.
She was definitely a last string, like I had very limited options left pick, so not really, no.
Like, as long as your other two picks are going strong, that's all that matters. And who knows? This
Ooh, I don't know about
season
that.
really has kind of, I feel like the potential to have some crazy fluidity, especially at the start here. It feels like people are still trying to really feel each other out. It doesn't feel like any of these alliances that they're trying to make seem are, these super strong alliances. I don't really think they're as strong, at least the larger groups. I think there's a lot of smaller factions within this house, and eventually, at some point, I think we're gonna hit a just a critical mass of things just kind of happening here. So I'm actually very very excited for the potential of where the season has to go. But we could start out on where things were at prior to this week beginning here, because as all y'all know, Jack's favorite Matt was sadly evicted last week. Let's have a moment of silence for Matt. Okay,
Oh, I hope
and
he
what were you gonna say there, Jack?
I just hope she falls off a cliff or something. I don't know. Like I don't know if y'all been keeping up with the social media. It is cringe. Oh God, he is truly showing he is the person I always said he was. So we love to see it.
Ooh, I'll be honest. I don't watch Matt on social media. I try to stay far away from that. So, Doug, have you been following a lot of the Big Brother social media? I feel like that's part of like one of the fun parts about the show is the social media reaction. Have you got into it? Because I feel like this maybe is the first or maybe second year that you're really watching this live.
Oh no, I haven't really paid attention to the social media since I don't really do like TikTok or anything like that. So, but I can imagine that being cringe. I don't need to see it to know that he's being cringe.
Well, someone else who's being a little cringe this week as well too is Kenny. He's very sad. Feels like this week, it feels like he's in his house alone without his friend that's a boy, Matt. Well, also it
His
feels like
situationship.
yeah, situationship, right? We can't say it was only a week, y'all. It was only a week. Actually, it was almost 2 weeks. So you never know. People can find true love in 2 weeks.
Oh,
I mean, Matt and Franny were love at first sight, and that was only what 2 weeks.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like crazier things could happen. Who knows? Um, Hopefully Kenny will have some time to spend with Matt outside the house, and he'll get his wish maybe. And one thing about Kenny this week, and we could just kind of take a tangent here really quick. With Kenny is this whole situation where it's like I felt like going into eviction night, we were going to see himself evict. And there's been this storyline going on here that maybe Kenny, at least on the feeds, that Kenny doesn't want to be here. What is everybody's thoughts on just Kenny in general here? Because he's totally not acting anything like I was expecting him to be like whatsoever. I was expecting like maybe the second coming of Derek, maybe not as smart, but like as maybe like at least attempting to start like a power structure strategy something going on here. Like this dude's doing nothing. He just wants to leave. Like what is happening here?
I think he's like the bad version of Q from Survivor because when Q was like saying, "Oh, he wanted to vote himself," he wanted to go home. He actually did stuff to screw everyone's games, and he felt bad. Kenny is just like has done nothing. Is mad that Matt is gone. Is like, I don't want to be here. Where cry. I don't. I want to be with my family because this person I just met a week ago is gone. But then it's like he'll win he'll try at the competition and be like, oh yeah, but then it's like, oh wait, no, I actually want to go home now. Never mind.
It really makes
Girl,
no sense.
Kenny, oh my god. Like, I've seen so much shit about people being like, stop casting older men on this show. And I was like, you know what? I'm not trying to be rude, but they got a point because I am tired of seeing these people like this. And I knew from the get that when Kenny was like, yeah, I'm Boston strong. Oh, yeah, I'm Boston strong. I was like, oh, this man is a bitch. I was like, here we go. And what happened was this man is like, every 2 seconds, I want to leave the house. And I understand, mental health and things like that of that nature. But as someone who can, I think we can all agree, probably is not an advocate very much for mental health in his normal daily life, we're probably like having less patience or understandings for Kenny. And also, he is just really annoying to deal with because he's like literally told people that he's known for like 3 days, like, I'll sacrifice my game for you. He said it to Matt, and now he said it to Angela, and we're just like, girl, I can't handle this, man. Why are you here? We had that clip of Joseph in the bathroom talking to America in the camera, like, why is Kenny here? All he does is bitch and complain about being here and just wants to leave. So why don't you go? And then there was that incident of him looking up the handbook rules of like what he can do and blah blah blah, the manual for Big Brother and trying to get people to sleep early or something. I was over it.
I don't think it's a situation here where it's a mental health issue. I think it's a
No.
situation where Kenny came into this house expecting things to go one way. They're not going the way that he wants them to go. And so, like Doug said, let me quit. Blah, blah, blah. Let me pick up my shit and go home. And it's just like, it's such a poor sport. Like, just try. Like, you have clearly the ability to make somewhat of a relationship. You make a relationship with Cedric at some point this week. It's just really annoying that we have to kind of deal with Kenny here. And I'm ready for him to go. But I'd say outside of Kenny, I feel like the other three people that are probably the biggest targets going into this week are Leah, Lisa, and Mackensy. Mostly because they're the people that were the three people that voted for Kenny to go. Now, we do get our head of household competition this week, which is like a test of memory where they're shown like a TikTok with a bunch of like animal clips, and they have to recall true or false facts about them. Our final three in this competition end up being Chelsie, Leah, and Tikor. And Tikor decides she wants to prove herself as a competitor, and that's why she's trying really hard for the win here. Leah is trying really hard because she wants revenge for Matt's eviction, and Chelsie is not sure why she's here because she says she guessed on every single question. And in the final question, wouldn't you know it, girl who says that she has the least motivation to actually make a move ends up winning as Chelsie becomes this week's head of household. And I feel like in the long run, this is going to be a detriment to Chelsea's game, especially when she said she had no reason to win this. And in some situations, it can be good because you can solidify a power structure around you and confirm kind of who is with you, whatnot. But I feel like always in the back of people's heads are they're going to remember this girl won a head of household. But I will say her strategy this week to not get any blood on her hands and go after house targets isn't a bad idea, just considering how much certain individuals in the house are hating on each other right now. So I don't think it's a bad decision that she has to make this kind of decision for now. But again, for me, I would have thrown the competition, much like her mascot buddy Cedric was doing here. I want to know overall, do y'all think it was a good idea for Chelsie to win this week? And do we think she has the right gameplay mindset to have this positively affect her game? Or is this going to be something that might lead to her downfall later?
I would not have wanted to win this HOH, but at the same time, her strategy about picking the nominees is very smart, and she's going to get the minimal amount of blood on her hands, if like really any at all.
I feel like this was probably maybe one of the best weeks to win HOH because you have three clear targets that are pissing people off with Angela, Lisa, and Kenny. So as long as you just put them up, there's really no blood on your hands because everyone just has been pissed off and annoyed at them.
I mean, I don't think it was necessarily the worst decision for her, but I do think especially looking at how things are kind of shaping up this week, it might not have been the best decision for her to win, but I think she goes about it the right way at least. So, as we learned this week, Cedric, Cam, and Chelsie are pretty much locked in as the three C's, and they decide to bring in Brooklyn and Quinn as members of their five-person alliance called the Pentagon. But what becomes an issue here is that Brooklyn and Quinn clearly know that the other three are closer than they are as a group here, so they know that they're being brought in late. So they kind of are being very wary of where they stand within this group. But at least this week, I feel like this is the alliance that they are trying to prop up as maybe the power alliance at this point. But I think that's only just because Chelsea one had a household. But I feel like one of the more important relationships here that are highlighted this episode or this week is the relationship between Chemo and T-Core because they feel like they're in everybody's pockets. They seem to really be like in the know of what's happening here. Everybody seems to like them, and they also seem to be the closest to each other. And the fact that if you're able to find someone that you could really trust and lock in with, I feel like that's extremely important in a game like this. So, kind of want to know, Doug, what are your thoughts on your draft pick Keycore's chances, as well as the chances of the Pentagon overall?
I'm feeling good about T-Core. It seems like she's been getting everywhere. No one's really been hating on her, really, but she hasn't really been shown to be very seen as a big player yet. So I feel like being in that middle ground is a good place to be at right now. So I feel good about her, and I feel like with the Pentagon, I have a feeling it's not gonna be the Pentagon for a while since Quinn and Brooklyn obviously know that they're 4 and 5 and that I think Cedric, Cam, and Chelsie kind of screw themselves by adding them in late and not doing it all at the same time, pretty much.
That's one thing I've always been very questionable and how these kind of alliances start and how people don't kind of see, like the power structure within them. Like, yeah, obviously you want to do a three-person alliance, but you don't also want to tell the people that you're bringing in late that they're the latecomers. Like, it's a little kind of cringe. It's like, ooh, that's like gameplay 101, y'all. Like, that's why none of like the big power structures worked last season is because they had like their three-person. Then I'm like, okay, well, let me add two more people, but instead of letting it be like an organic situation when it happens and have like those extra people maybe be in the conversation first and then bring in the other people in later so that way they kind of think that they're not the top, like they just make it very clear that they're like, hey, we have a three, there's a fourth, you're the fifth. And it's like, oh, like, ooh, okay, sure. Jack, do you have any thoughts here on, I guess, who would be our power players at this point between the members of the Pentagon and Chemo and T-Core as far as who might be some of your favorites as who could possibly be in the end game here?
I hope I see Chemo, T-Core, and Rabina, honestly, in the finals because I would live for that kind of alliance going on. I'm a big fan of these people. Though I have to say, as far as the core goes with this, it's kind of messy because they're also the core of the fake barbershop alliance and the collective alliance. And the problem was Brooklyn was part of the barbershop and Quinn was part of the collective, and neither of them was in each. So like, like it's just a weird place to be with this Pentagon situation now. And I guess it just works in the favor of Brooklyn and Quinn for now, but since they already know that they are definitely not in a good scenario, it just it's kind of a strange place to be.
Hmm. Well, I'd
And
say
I
that
don't
the
know.
sorry, you're
Oh,
saying.
sorry. No, you're good.
Apologies
I
there.
think it's weird because like it seems like Cedric Cam and Chelsie are very committed to each other. And with the blow up with the Angela situation and whatnot with Quinn, there was so much to go over, especially with these three people together. Like, there's been some drama around them, plus all the alliances. I think it's getting a little messy.
Oh, trust. We'll get into the messiness here. We need to get through our nominations here first, though, because it looks like initially, pretty much Kenny is probably most likely to get nominated here. It feels like just because he has no relationship or alliance with Chelsie at all. Angela also obviously seems like a very obvious choice here, even though she's trying to lay low, since she has no idea how Chelsie actually feels after her whirlwind head household last week. But it's very clear here that she has a target given on her, how much she pissed off the entire house last week. But it's also noted here that they feel like she could possibly be used as a weapon to potentially go after Leah or Mackenzie, who they feel are the real threats in the house. Especially because at this point, Mackenzie reveals to Chelsie that she's holding on to the America's Veto upgrade. So not only now does Chelsie know that people that she kind of wanted to make a move against, which was Mackenzie or her BFF Leah, she now knows that she has to be wary about it because they have this veto here. I was actually very, as much as I don't agree with the revealing powers here, I think this was actually a very smart move for Mackenzie to do here. So the fact that she was able to kind of make herself not a target and also not really, I mean, everybody knows she has the power now at this point, but she didn't have to use it. And I think that's the benefit to her there. But the one person, unfortunately, that she is working with that it feels like no one really gives two fucks about at all is Lisa, because everybody is really just kind of ready to see her go, especially Tucker. Tucker is done with Lisa. She has just annoyed just him to no end here to the point where he is just on a crusade to get rid of her. So it turns out, I mean, I don't think any of us were surprised here. I don't think anybody in the house was surprised here either when we get our nominations here of Angela, Kenny, and Lisa. Do y'all have anything to say about how the nominations kind of took shape here between our five targets?
I mean, the targets got themselves put up on the block. It's fine. Like, there's not much to say other than they all messed up. They all fucked up super hard. What are you gonna do?
It seemed like the very obvious choices here, so I don't think any of us were surprised at all here whatsoever. So yeah, Angela, Kenny, Lisa on the block. Um, and I think we start the next episode here where I think things really kind of dive into Quinn. Where initially I thought Quinn was probably in the best position here, but it's kind of clear, at least at this point, he could be overplaying his hand just a bit. As he reveals all of his alliances here, he reveals he's in the Pentagon with Brooklyn, Cedric, Chelsie, and Cam, the Andersons with Chemo, Cam, and Tucker, and then the Visionaries with T-Core and Chemo, which again could be possibly one of the strongest trios in the house here, unless of course Chemo and T-Core get wind of all of Quinn's alliances that he's been in here. Who knows? Which is entirely possible at this point because if y'all remember, last week and what becomes one of the biggest storylines of this week is Quinn told Angela about his special power, which is just the fuck, y'all. Why would you do that? Why would, of all the people, like this is coming back to bite him so hard here. Um, we kind of get into how things progress here in just a little bit here, but do we have any thoughts about Quinn's precarious position as he's trying to deal with things with Angela moving forward.
I feel like with Angela, she might have not been the best, but also with how much she self sabotaged with her word in the house, people just aren't believing her. So I think it wasn't the worst thing for him to tell Angela there, with hindsight.
I suppose that's true, because I mean, you're right. No one's gonna believe Angela unless they do.
Well, the problem is what happened this week, and it's just a bad idea if you get a power up to immediately tell someone about said power up just because you want to gain favor with them. Like honestly, if you wanted to gain favor with the HOH, you can just tell them like, hey, like I'm totally cool with like I'm not gonna come for you, you don't come for me. We're like totally cool. I really think we could get along and like try to find common ground as opposed to like telling them this huge secret. Because honestly, the secret is just this double edged sword, right? Because and and especially because he didn't know her well enough to be blabbering. He didn't know if she was a blabbermouth or not. And guess what? She's like the biggest blabbermouth ever, and she's petty, which I
Well,
love.
I feel like if Quinn had told Angela that if you don't come for me, I won't come for you, Angela would have thought, "Oh no, he's gonna come for me. I'm gonna go and just like go on a full meltdown on him, just like how she did with Matt." So
Mm,
I
yeah,
feel like I maybe said that wrong. Like I just meant in the sense that like, hey, like I'm super happy for you. Like, I know this is a really hard decision. Do you have any ideas right now? If you want any, like, if you want my input, like, feel free to ask me at any point. I don't want to like, I don't want to do like disrespect you or whatever, and I don't want to like come to you begging, but I would like to be like have an open dialogue. Just don't be as like stupid about it as Matt was. It's more just about like trying to be genuine and gain a relationship with her. And I think Quinn could have really been smart and just said, I think that we could pair up and no one would predict that the two of us were together, because I think that a maybe a younger guy and an older woman isn't always the most like known, I guess, alliance. And we've seen it in many a seasons of like Survivor and other shows where these duos do go far and do extremely well.
I mean, I think you're right, Jack, if the person that he wasn't trying to reason with was Angela. Angela has clearly shown that she misinterprets every situation, and I just think her paranoia, and even but for her paranoia is not gonna do her any services here. And I think, as Doug said, had he came to her and told her that they wanted to be a strong two, I think it would have had the exact opposite effect. And she's just, as we've seen and as we will just talk about here in a moment here, actually, like I said, she just has a way of just kind of turning every situation kind of in a negative way that is kind of something that's like in a way it's something I see like from very like narcissistic people where everything's about them. Oh, like, oh, people must be talking about me, blah 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 blah. Like, it's just very like paranoid narcissistic behavior that it's a little much. Angela might need to go get that checked out after the show. Especially like because our big blow up this episode kind of comes from this relationship that we're seeing again between the core three of Cedric, uh, Cam, and Chelsie. And we also find out that T Core has a very strong relationship with them as well. And while the four of them don't have an actual alliance, there's a very, again, varied exchange that I feel like now has to happen every single season after season 23, just because, you know, the cookout was such a huge monumental perspective in just in reality TV in general. I was going to say in gaming, but in reality TV in general, because it is notable in every season up to that to season 23, a black contestant had never won the season. The cookout specific goal was just to make sure a black player won season to break that curse. It wasn't a situation where it was like we're doing this specifically against people because we're all black. And so it's like every single season moving forward here, maybe not last season, I don't know if it was necessarily blown up as much, but season 24 was a big issue, and now this season, it kind of gets questionable. It's definitely brought up. I'm not sure if it's brought up in the same perspective, and I kind of want to get your guys' perspective on it too, because the way that things happen here, again, super questionable. So, again, we find, or how this all happens is Cedric, Chelsie, Cam, and T-Core are outside in a hammock. Angela says in confessional after she sees these four outside that these are the group of four that she wants to work with, at least between Cedric, Chelsie, and T-Core. And she said she wouldn't want, or like, and she says here, who wouldn't want to work with Cam? He's Cam. He's charismatic. Who wouldn't want to work with him? So, where things get weird here, it's Angela then approaches Quinn, telling Quinn, hey, go to the kitchen, look at the people in the hammock. That's the group. And then walk away. It's very unclear in the edit if how she's trying to portray this. Just because who knows if she said things in between here. I didn't actually watch the clip happen live. I don't know. Maybe y'all did. But what she's saying is this is the group she really wants to work with. And she goes to Quinn and says, hey, this needs to be basically our six without like saying it's our six. The way Quinn takes it is that this group of four we need to worry about because of why? Because of cookout, that's cookouts past, etc. Um, this leads into a huge, gigantic situation where Angela breaks down when T-Core confronts her, and it's just also cringe, so cringe. Um, what were y'all's thoughts on how all this went down? And do we think Angela was having a moment of that one guy from season 24 that I don't remember his name? Or am I going to go look it up because he doesn't matter?
Wow. So it's really unclear with the edit, I have to say. Like, I usually don't like to say that, but the edit was very strange versus what we kind of saw on the live feeds and stuff because to me, I think it might have been more of a miscommunication. But when I saw the scene, I thought that Angela meant this is a group of people working together, and we got to be careful about that because it's an alliance. And I understand where Quinn got that from. I don't necessarily know that Angela, like, because she had claimed, and there was recording of her saying that she wanted to work with that group beforehand. I don't know if she just didn't see how that came off, or if how like someone else wouldn't have taken it that way. But the meltdown from it definitely didn't like. It definitely did not help things at all for her case. Let's put it like that. And it's one of those things you have to unfortunately look out for now because people have always kind of played that game with specifically looking at someone's race and making a judgment about them. They just weren't so vocal about it, right? And so now we have this like awkward situation where people just want to use that almost as an excuse for like their um like internalized racism or whatever to like make sure. And it's not like we can tell 100% if Angela was like thinking that way, but if I were Quinn, I wouldn't be surprised if, after all of Angela's antics, if Angela had come up with something along the lines of we have to get them out because they're too much like the cookout kind of thought. So I think it just became a very messy situation, and it was not handled well at all on Angela's half, and it was the the conversation, just the miscommunication became a big deal. And I'm so glad that like T-Core came about it, right? She like immediately went to the source, wanted to find out about it. I'm glad that Quinn told her. I'm glad that they had this conversation because it needed to come up. It couldn't just be something that like was said in passing. Like that's a serious accusation if that's what was said or thought. And another big thing about it is that how are you going to live in the house with someone who has such like feelings towards you based upon your skin color? Like it's unacceptable. So I'm glad the confrontation happened, but the way it was handled was pretty poor.
Doug, I know you have something to say about all this.
Yeah, I feel like Angela wanted to, like, in her head, she's like, I want to work with them. But then when she spoke, she did not say that. She, for some reason, was thought that she was saying she wanted to work for him, but saying like, "Oh, this is the group to look for," and that's kind of signaled to Quinn. And then any type of accusation, she's like just blew up out of proportion, pretty much. That even a tiny bit of like just saying, "Oh, are you uh saying that we're to look for because of our skin color?" And she all of a sudden says, "Oh, are you calling me racist?" It seemed like Angela blew that way up with like all of her paranoia and probably narcissism as well, as you mentioned, Renegade. That her saying that T-Core coming to say this has to absolutely mean that she thinks that she's racist, and there's no other reason why she would say this.
She's just she's putting a lot of pressure on herself. It's very clear. Like I kind of get it. I get what it's like to play in very competitive situations there. It's not easy. It's definitely a pressure cooker. It's just very clear that Angela is not handling this well at all. I was not expecting her to be the one in this house when we have people like Lisa and Tucker and the list goes on to be the one that is making headlines here. But um, both thank you, Angela, and I hope you're okay after the show. This is all I gotta say. Um, let's go ahead and move on to our power veto competition. I don't have very much to say about it here. Honestly, it was basically just a stacking competition. It was called Code Tower. They have a bunch of they said zeros and ones, but why were the ones squares? It just that was like okay, stupid. Anyway, but it basically just comes down to a race between Brooklyn and Kenny. It seems like here, Kenny gets a little bit of advantage on Brooklyn, ends up winning here, and now at this point, Chelsie needs to find a replacement nominee. And at this point, I was actually very intrigued. Had I not known what was actually going to happen later on here, because now Chelsea actually has to get some blood on her hands. Like, there's no obvious target here for her to put up. But of course, as fate would have it, someone in the house has decided that, you know what? They need to right some wrongs. They need to get rid of all of the messy people. They need, they just have so much hatred against Lisa that they need to be the one to personally send them out the door. And Tucker, my fucking draft pick, decides that he is going to be that person and nominates or decides to volunteer to be the replacement nominee. So he goes up, and I am smacking my head here. What are y'all's thoughts here? Which I get the argument because you know what, you do have a competition. If you're good at competitions, you're gonna do well, especially in this situation. You're competing against Lisa and Angela. Angela clearly kind of won a luck competition. Lisa, possibly at least heading into this, I thought was I'm still not going to say she's not a bad competitor, but she had a very, very, very good performance in that veto competition. So I think mental competitions, as far as things go for Lisa, maybe at least word competitions, are things that are in her wheelhouse. So I would be a little questionable going up against Lisa. Against Angela, okay, maybe not so much. But I mean, obviously, they're probably the two biggest house targets at this point. So this point, I don't hate the argument of him putting himself up against these two at this point. But I'm still just never, ever, 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 doesn't regardless what situation you put me in, am I going to say, put me on that block? I'm never gonna do it. So do you ever see a circumstance here where you think it's beneficial to put yourself on the block?
Yeah, I think there are times when it's beneficial to put yourself on the block. It's definitely a time where you can build some trust. One thing about this cast, though, they made the correct decision to get rid of Matt last week because, and to paraphrase, they didn't want to be like the other casts that were straight up just dumb and not getting rid of the strong competition right away. I think they realized that they had an opportunity just to get rid of one of the strongest competitors, and they took it. It's like one of those. Well, they could do it this week, but unlike Matt, Tucker has not sold so many relationships and hasn't caused as much drama. Tucker hasn't caused this huge outrage between people, so it's kind of safe. The other thing is, Tucker lives by working out, eating, goofing off, and talking shit about Lisa. His hatred for Lisa, which a lot of people think was surface level, which there's no way in hell because you wouldn't have done that bad. He snitched on her about using Dijon mustard instead of normal mustard for slop or whatever to the producers trying to get her in trouble. This man hates her, and I don't blame him. Lisa was my pick, and I don't blame him, right? Kind of thing. Lisa was pretty annoying. I understand that she felt like she wasn't really understood, but she could not read the room to save her life. If reading the room was a challenge, girl, she would have bombed so hard. Even some of the people in the house were trying to get her to understand that, if there's a problem, maybe some of it has to go back with how you are acting that's making other people is just, I don't know. There's just so much to say about this scenario, but I love that he wants to be on the block so badly to push Lisa out of this house that he's willing to put his game on the line. It's not the greatest strategic move, but goddamn does it make great drama.
I mean, and then we get the scene afterwards where they're having their confrontation because Tucker thinks that Lisa has the power, even though Angela told Tucker that Quinn has it. And he's getting into their match about how much experience they have in reading each other, and he tells her that he's studied with the CIA, reading people and human psychology and all this other shit, and just like, oh my God, Tucker, I can't with you right now, but I'm living for this right now. Um, Doug, what are your thoughts here on Tucker versus Lisa here?
Um, I thought the drama was amazing. That Tucker legitimately has a deep hatred for her, even to go as far as to mock her hairstyle during the eviction night. That was crazy, but I thought it was a bit stupid to put yourself up because these people are smart. If you don't win that AI battle, then you might you're probably gonna go home unless you have some really good connections there.
He's thinking he has connections. I feel like he's close to people, but he's not in anybody's alliance, which to me feels like maybe he knows that, and that's why he's trying to go on this crusade to just put himself in the best position to win competitions, and then hopefully they'll just never put him in a position to try to get backdoored or anything like that. So I kind of see the logic here. Um, but it's also a situation here, and something I'm definitely gonna want to talk about next week, when we're talking about what's happening here, because I feel like if you know you're not in a power alliance, why are you not making moves to attempt to not only reveal the power structure, but attempt to make your own power structure? And the rule of Big Brother, if you're not being talked with someone about game, they're talking about you. So, I'm just wondering why how many of these people or these solo players are going to realize that these big alliances are actually happening around them. So, I think that will be the theme as things go forward here. But theme of this week was get rid of the big house targets, and um, Angela and Lisa. I don't think there's any bigger house targets than both of them. And not only that, but they give us some great, great drama here. Because you know what? Andrea just can't help herself. She decides, you know what? He just needs to just confront Lisa here. Because there's another series of events here where Angela stumbles upon a group discussion following a conversation she had with Tucker. And in this conversation with Tucker, she's trying to tell him about Quinn and the fact that Quinn probably has power and whatnot. Obviously, Tucker's not listening, but he goes into the side conversation in this group and they're talking about Angela and the situation. So Angela overhears this conversation, not realizing that Lisa is in this group and Tucker's basically only doing this so Lisa feels a little more secure in her spot and is basically lying to her about it. So Angela takes it all very personally and decides to wait outside the room and just sitting there waiting and just staring at people the whole entire time. Eventually, Lisa exits the room and she decides to mimic Lisa's walk, to which Lisa calls her a bully. They get into a little conversation later on here where they are trying to get Tucker's clothes out of the laundry room, and Angela gets them first. Lisa brings in another bag thinking that it's Tucker's. It's not Tucker's, and Angela's like, haha, I got it first. And Lisa says something, I don't remember what, and as she exits the room, Angela says, haha, because you're a twit. Lisa overhears it and is deeply, deeply offended, calling her a bully and asks her politely to not call her that. To which Angela says, but you are one. Lisa then runs off dramatically into the storage room and cries while the cameras are spinning around her. And I'm just like, oh my god, this is so dramatic. Where's my popcorn? Like, the editors are living for this shit. Like, this is some of the most overdramatic editing that I've seen on this show in quite some time. And wow, are the like I before this season, I would have never wanted to watch any of these live shows, but wow, these live shows have been so good. What were your thoughts here on Twit-gate?
Uh, I thought that it was hilarious that Angela's just giving zero fucks about what she says now and doesn't really care what Lisa thinks. And that what really isn't that bad of a thing to be called. And it's like, it feels a bit way over dramatized by Lisa instead of just not giving her a reaction, which Angela clearly wants to have and got. But also, Lisa deserves it because she's vegan.
Wow.
I mean, okay. So Lisa was my pick, and I was annoyed with her, and I'm not having to be in the house with her. Like, I think that maybe she means well, but um, it was a lot to take in as a viewer, so I can't imagine being there. Now, as far as Angela, she did not have to be mean to Lisa. She didn't do those things, but did it make amazing television? Yes. Would I call myself a unicorn or a goddess or anything like that? No, I wouldn't call myself that based on that, of course. So it's an interesting comment, but the fact that she does the little walk back and forth and calls her a twit, and then Lisa has a full on breakdown in the storage room and goes into a corner. I'm over here like, okay, so this is kind of bullying, but I don't think it was as serious as Lisa made it seem in that moment. But again, we could be missing out on a lot of other bullying moments because like she definitely, there was that time where Angela wanted to like go speak with I think Takor, and they were going, and as she's going in, she's like, wipe that smirk off your face, Lisa. And we're all like, oh my god, like, it was just so unnecessary. But anyways, it was so funny. And you feel kind of bad, but at the same time, you're like, I mean, she's not wrong when she's like, this is Big Brother.
But
Like,
Jack,
it is.
God.
acco- according to Big Brother Facebook, it's like a whole like she committed a whole felony. It seems like they want her off the show, Angela,
I
because
mean, maybe
because
so.
I mean, I'm all about people antagonizing people. I won't even lie. Like, if you're gonna be that person that wants to be in the house and start drama, um, I I'm completely fine with it. I don't think she went. that far over. I mean, they're very. I think her calling Lisa calling Angela a bully is worse than her getting called a twit. But like um, to each their own. It'd be like you doo doo head. How dare you? You poo poo face. Like it's a very sure it's a word that you call someone you don't like, but it's like it's there's far worse things Angela could have said. But um, for Lisa's sake, then maybe it's just a good thing that how things ended up happening here happened. Because we get to Ansley's AI arena, and they have the competition security race, where it's basically just a puzzle challenge, and Tucker literally just destroys Angela and Lisa here. Like it's not even close. I don't even think any like you had to like put in a few layers of the puzzle, because it was like a layered puzzle, and in the first layer, there's like holes you have to arrange in order to make sure they're set in the right position, so your puzzle will sit in correctly on the front layer. I don't even think Lisa and Angela got past this layer. Like I don't even think they got maybe they got one piece in the puzzle. Maybe I think I saw Lisa with a piece in the puzzle, but like that was. Ooh. Anyway, we get to the votes, and I'll be very honest. After Quinn voted third, and it was not for Angela, and it was for Lisa, I knew it was going to be a complete vote pileup on her, and it was right. She left with I think what 11 votes against her. Kenny was the only vote that did not vote for her. Even Leah and MJ decided this week they're not going to make themselves targets, and they're actually going to vote for the person that goes home. Whereas Kenny, is Kenny just trying to set himself apart here so he gets voted get voted
Yes,
out? Like
yes,
Yes.
it
yes, he
seems like
is.
that's what he's trying to do here. Um, let's go home. Kenny, just tell Vivek, man. Just walk. Just walk. Just get out. So that way, then if someone gets evicted, then they could have a moment where they don't actually have to leave, unless they pull Kristen on him, which could possibly happen. Um, Jack, I need to know here because she was your pick, and you are now the second person in our draft to lose a person. What are your thoughts
Mhm.
here overall as we mourn for Miss Lisa?
I guess she was stronger in competitions than Angela, like barely, but technically she was stronger. So I guess when you're making the choice between the two of them, I guess I would go with getting rid of her. But I mean, look, Angela is on a very finite timeline, and if they let her stay too long, then she will go all the way probably. So that makes me a little nervous. And when Quinn wants her out but can't get the votes for it, it's like unfortunately Tucker will get his um wish this week. And you can see when Lisa finds out the votes are 11-1 and everyone had lied to her face, she was gobsmacked. She was like, I hate this house of mother tucking liars so much. And
Mhm.
she's just trying to keep this straight face, but like nothing looks even more like cynical than this woman who is about to just blow a gasket. Like you can see the like gears are turning in this woman's head. She is thinking, is there any way I can do something to hurt these people? Like, I was nervous for them because at that moment, she looked so cold and so calculated about, like, what she was planning on doing or possibly preventing herself from doing. I was like, okay, it's not no more pink and rainbows anymore with her. She's about to go off. And even in her talk with Julie Chen makes it a point to point out like how stressed and mad Lisa seemed and how she was just basically begging people. She was barely hugging them. She was like, I don't really want these hugs from all you fake bitches. And I was like, oop, all right. And Angela is over here giddy as hell, and Tucker is basically feels like he's just won the Olympics himself. So, it's an interesting it's a great time to be a Big Brother fan right now.
We really are kind of eating right now, I'll be honest. I feel like usually in the beginning of seasons they're usually pretty good. I wasn't expecting this group to be as fun as they were here, and um, we kind of get into some week 3 spoilers here, since at this point we already know who the nominations are. We already know who the veto is. We know who could possibly be going up on the block here. So we just want to discuss a little bit into that territory here. So if you don't want to hear that, go ahead and disconnect now. Even though if you're probably listening to this, I think you probably already know what's coming up here. But here's your chance now to leave as I ramble just a little bit longer before we move on to the next step. Okay, so week 3. If y'all have not been paying attention, at this point, Cedric has become our new head of household, and he nominated house targets Angela and Kenny up against Tucker, who has volunteered again for the block. It seems like here going into the vote, or sorry, going into the initial nominations, he was possibly thinking about putting up either Leah or Rubina, since it seems like Leah is probably one of the most vulnerable members on her side of the house with Mackensy, and Rubina is probably the least connected that he's with people on kind of her side of the house, with I would say probably like a Tucker, a T-Core, a Chemo, seem like they're all kind of vibing together there. But at this point, Tucker has won the power of veto, and who the fuck knows what is going to go down here because I'm hearing so many different things here, y'all. Tell me, Jack, I believe you were the one that was giving me the update here. What were your thoughts, or what was going down in the house today after Tucker won head house or veto?
So Tucker told Cedric, I believe, that he could possibly use the veto, I believe, on Angela or Kenny, and they could put up Quinn to backdoor Quinn because they know that Quinn has the power now, and Quinn's power can't be used because you have to do it, I think you have to do it like sometime right after noms or before noms or something like that. So Quinn would have no opportunity to save himself other than the AI competition in which Tucker believes that he can beat Quinn there, so they could backdoor Quinn this way and then get rid of a power from the house, and people are worried about that.
Oh
Which is
my
a whole thing in
god.
itself because so many people have connections with Quinn that him trying to campaign also may expose a lot of his alliances that may be the reason for why they were thinking about targeting him in the first place right now. So I'm not really 100% certain on everything that's going down or what is happening with that scenario, but it is definitely such an interesting play, and it's so nice to see someone actually like want to play this game and make these big crazy moves so early on too. It gives you all these options. You don't know what's going to happen yet, but damn, you're excited to see if anything does happen like that.
I'm very actually very pleased with how self-interested this cast seems. Like, I think that's probably why we're not getting the big, gigantic alliances here because you don't have the people that just kind of want to float by. You have people that want to play this game. Um, Doug, do you have any thoughts here as we get into week 3, knowing all we know now and the possibilities of what could potentially be happening here, considering Quinn is your replacement pick that you could have had Angela, but you decided to go for Quinn.
I feel like I don't know how Quinn's chances will be for this week, but I feel like Tucker might have outed himself as like a comp beast so far with like the power of veto winning that, and then just pretty much just dominating the puzzles with against Lisa and Angela, and then yelling "I love puzzles," which means that he's not only strong, that he's also smart. I don't know him being put up and winning these competitions is the best idea for him because he might just get backdoored and hopefully loses the AI competition.
Don't you say hopefully that's my draft pick you're talking shit about there. You better watch that.
For not for me, but hopefully for like the rest of the house if they put
Yeah,
them
I
up.
know, I'm just playing with you. I mean, honestly, this has potential to be in a really amazing season that we have here. And I'm not going to jinx it. I'm not going to say anything just yet because, again, it's still early. We still probably have, what, like another, like, 12, 14, 17 weeks of the show left. So they have plenty of time to drop the ball on us, unfortunately. But we're just going to just keep watching, keep enjoying what we got going on here, because it's been a fun ride. And if you've made it this far, thank you again so much for listening. And as always, please like and subscribe if you have not already done so, because let us know that you're enjoying the content. Also, make sure to get everything out there. You know how YouTube algorithms are. Also, be sure to catch all of our continuing coverage on Big Brother 26, Canada versus the World 2, soon to be Global All Stars later next month, as well as possibly the Challenge Season 40 to be decided. But until next time, and on behalf of my co-casters, Doug and Jack, this is Renegayde signing out. But remember to keep spilling that tea, y'all. Bye!
Keeping us out of the house. Bye.
Bye. Boy, bye, Kenny.